products that are selling really well right now in the water industry. So we get a lot of compliments. I have to go right to this, Mike. I have to say, tons of compliments over and over how beautiful this design is, and you're responsible for that.
He hates hearing that.
This is paying my daughter's tuition right now. I appreciate it. Thank you.
What is it? What is it?
It's a flow meter. Let's go ahead and start there. I mean, here's the idea: is that I'm an egghead scientist, technology, right? But one of the reasons I run a leak detection business as a PhD is not really because for the business, but because I need to feel the pain to be a good inventor. You have to know what the problems are intimately, and so that connects you with their problems, with your customers, with the needs. And so I became intrigued by our water problem when we bought an asset called American Leak Detection. I'm jumping ahead here a little bit, but it's important. I'll pass this around. Flow is really important, and it's not just knowing flow, but measuring it properly and accurately and in real conditions. And the problem with flow meters today is you need this laminar flow condition, these paddle wheels, to be accurate, and they still aren't very accurate. And when I was calibrating this, I was frustrated. I spent tens of thousands of dollars on flow meters, and none of them were accurate across the whole scale. They were good in little pieces, but they drift over. So I said, hey, I have to do this stupid simple thing, Put a bucket out there, time how long it takes to fill up 50 gallons, right? That's really the right way to measure something, and how that's a real way. And so we did it that way, and we realized that, hey, this is a super accurate flow meter, and it's stupid simple. How can that be? I got lucky, kind of thing. And it's accurate elbow to elbow, and it's been third-party verified by the National Sanitary Foundation, and right now it's the only NSF certified flow meter. And in the pool industry, with all the variable speed drives, they've been mandated in California to save energy, because with centrifugal pumps, you can turn the energy down 50%, still pump 80% of the water. It's affinity law. And so, but they need to know how far to turn them down, because if you get the flow down too low in a pool, it turns green. You don't filter enough. So the health departments, they love this, because they have a reliable flow meter now that they can count on. They know it's right. And so it's been really a wonderful thing, and it's starting to spread, and it's been a great thing. So just stupid simple. That's the beautiful thing. No electronics. I do have an electronic readout. I have a little hole here for a Hall effect sensor. We can make electronic, but just providing really simple, practical solutions for water management. That's where it needs to start, I think. We'll start there. Start, baby steps. So let's get into it. What I've realized it's about awareness. How do you bring awareness to water problems, So I would like to we're all over. If you have any personal directions you want to go, I could talk for hours on this topic. I'm passionate about it. I kind of almost gave up optics and analytical chemistry to pursue this for only 2 or 3 years, and here I am a dozen years later. So some basic human needs, they're air, water, food, and shelter. There's others, companionship and stuff, but really, we breathe. What's the next thing you need? Air, water. Water's super important. I get calls all the time. People don't realize how important it is to their life until they don't have it. And hot water is another thing. Water awareness. So how do you bring awareness to people? Well, I was just studying this for my own problem, and I started making these sensors. Hey, what's going on with my water in my house? I couldn't believe what I was missing. And I was aware, I thought, as a leak detector guy. I thought I was aware of what was going on. But what I realized is I'm missing a lot. You need more information. So most water delivery infrastructure remains out of sight, out of mind. If there's a problem, nobody knows, nobody cares, okay, until there's a problem. And then then they start peeling that onion, and they start going, oh my goodness, I don't know where my water line is. I don't know where my shutoff is. It's a problem. So we purchased an asset. Out here we are having fun building all these fancy optics for the DOD, and spend a lot of tax dollars, having a lot of fun, really doing some good stuff. And lo and behold, we got a president, and he says, hey, I want to buy this asset because we're making money, called American Leak Detection. We're like, what? So we go and I study American Leak Detection. We acquire it. And my eyes are open. I'm like, wow, we got a problem in this country. We have all this infrastructure installed. It's degrading. It's horrible. We have a water problem. I watched the lower Colorado dry up. That's where I grew up, in lower Colorado River area. Watch it dry up. And then I go and I learn about all this waste, and I kind of get really upset about it. And I think, this is a solvable problem. We just think about it a little bit, because there is water there. Let's just let's just stop wasting it. Because about 17%, I think on the average, is pumped to leaks in most cities. 17%. And it isn't the cost of water, it's the cost to move it. And so that's energy. That's electricity. So I was on a new mission. I want to build new leak tools, So I have to be a leak detector. You got to feel the pain, right? You got to understand the problem. So it was a long way to the truth. Years and years I went out, I was technology, more technology. And then I realized, wow, really the economics have to change for people to become interested. And, there's no way to make people aware of the problem until they have that problem. And then they're converts, okay? So how do you bring that awareness to people to make them change the way they think about it? Because if you just know what to look for stuff, it's amazing what you'll catch on waterways. So how are we aware? Well, most of us are aware because our water bills are really high. We're like, oh crud, we got a leak, right? And we're 30 days into it, sometimes 60 days into it. It's too late. Where does it go? We don't see it here. We live on a Swiss cheese, we live on lava tubes. It goes straight down. I've been next to literally 25 gallons a minute. Hits a rock straight down. You think, people come from the mail. It's going to bubble up. I'm going to see it. No, you'd be amazed. They think, you're weaving a tail. So, we have foliage sometimes if we're lucky. Overt visual indicators, wet spots, right? You know what I mean? Things like that. In swimming pools, the pool guys say, hey, your pool's leaking, I'm using twice as much chemicals, And so those are usually long after the leak started to cost you a lot of money. And so now it becomes the long process of chasing it down. What are the tools available to us to find the leak? Okay. And so that's the next challenge. You start turning things off. You wait till next month. The resolution is too coarse. Okay. We need higher resolution information. So, pressure regulators. You ever think about this? You ever think about nobody complains about high pressure? That's the mechanism of failure in pressure regulators. And think about what that does to your infrastructure as you increase pressure. Every time you turn off the hose and on a fixture, you get that water hammer, that momentum. Water weighs a lot. And depending on your system, it can just tear itself up the more your pressure gets up there. But everybody sets the pressure and walks away, and you just never forget about it, and everybody's happy about high water pressure. Low water pressure, then you complain. So, we need to watch our water pressure because it's really damaging. And I believe there's some kind of exponential function on the mean time between failures with high water pressure. You're stressing everything, it's a big balloon, your irrigation. So be conscientious of your pressure regulators, where they're at. If you think about it, most people put them at the house, but there's still that whole line there between the meter and your house that's not protected, right? And that's subject to all that surges whenever the water company turns up or changes anything, it's going to, all that momentum, depending on where you're at, it's going to blow you up. So just be aware. Those are the things I'm learning, all right? Or I've learned over time. So there's technology. Here's the technology for awareness control. What are the technological solutions? Well, county in Phoenix, I just talked to them last week, starting to learn, how people are approaching the problem from the municipal side and from other sides, and I'm finding I think people are missing the boat a little bit. The county and the municipalities are a little bit constrained with budget and how to roll it out, and what's the best way to roll it out. They're very careful, and so Phoenix is going to take 7 years to get to where they can have high resolution to their end users. Okay, they're looking at the highest users first. Okay, so the little guy on the street's got a ways to go. Oops, let me go back here. Plumber installed flow switch devices. I'll show you some of those. That's a solution, but you got to hire a plumber, get the right one. You got to hire a plumber. I want a consumer add-on. I want to empower the consumer to capture their information if they want to. So the Internet of Things have really brought us some cool stuff, but a lot of Me Too things. There's drip sensors, okay, moisture devices to watch after a leak happens in your house, but really nothing that is robust and secure. It's all based, I think there's been a rush and there's a security issue there. A few years ago, we set out to look at this, and I have this wireless ability to control a valve, and I thought, no way am I going to let that on the net. Hack through on that, and I've got liability up to what, right? So you got to be careful about the Internet of Things and what's available. The data cruncher business, there's some businesses now that are taking all the on a big scale, doing the big data thing. and collecting all the water municipality data and trying to look for features and things that, and try to add value that way, okay? So homeowner labor, you know, lift, read, and measure, man. Get out there in the water meter, look, okay, it's not moving, right? Put it back every day. A lot of people don't like to get dirty and, you know, hassle, they forget. You know, after a while, they miss the leaks, okay? The data logger, okay? The problem with those, usually you gotta custom fit them, you know, into each meter register, right? You know, there's other ones out there. But anyway, it's starting to come. There's more and more stuff out there. Right now, I still don't see anything that's a piece of cake for the homeowner. And that's really what I'm after, okay? Just my own personal belief that will bring awareness. My own personal experience I got to share with you. Thought I was a good leak detector guy and know what was going on in my house. Put these sensors on, like I started catching these things day to day, hose on, didn't quite turn the faucet off. Little pennies here and there. I'm like, next thing you know, I'm like, wow, I just saved $30 these last 6 months. I never got a leak, just awareness, right? So, okay, so small things make the difference in plumbing and infrastructure. How I find that plumbing infrastructure will be designed beautifully, installed horribly, or be installed all really good except a couple little end connections, and those are the weak links. That's where the problems are. You have to be very thorough, start to finish. Around here, you have a big problem. You got to burrito your pipes, man, in some weed cloth because the sand, after time, all the earthquakes and stuff, settles out. Next thing you know, your pipe's sitting on rocks like this. So just be aware of that when you install your infrastructure. I'm just sharing with you observations over the last few years. So pressure reduction, big thing. Put a pressure reducer, a high-low version, right behind your water meter. That way your whole infrastructure is protected, not just at your house, right? It's really important. You own that pipe, right? You're responsible for that. Put a pressure reader right after that water meter. Everything you own then is protected, right? That's going to make your stuff last so much longer, and it's going to also reduce the loss when you do get a leak because you aren't delivering so much water to the leak. The leak propagation is exponential over time on the leak, so it'll slow that down so you can catch it, okay? Local practice and marketing. The people marketing the HDPE I have found, they oversold it in my opinion. This is my opinion. Yes, sir?
What's HDPE?
High density polyethylene, that black plastic pipe. Mm-hmm. It's that stuff right there. And some of the manufacturers, you know, I believe, you know, they were right in saying, hey, this is great stuff. It will last for a long time. But the part they missed was you got to take really good care of it to get it in the ground right, okay? Because the plumbers and the practitioners, so it's bulletproof, throw it around, you know, dink it, you know, kink it, whatever. I've seen them run over it on a construction project for a year, bury that pipe. Unbelievable. Homeowner doesn't know, 3 years later, boom, 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 leak. You fix a leak, next pressure's point, next leak. It's a problem. Save $10, you know, cost about $10,000.
Still better than PVC.
It is very good material, but the point is that it has to be properly installed still yet. And don't, you know, just because it's bulletproof doesn't mean you can abuse it, right, and get away with it. That's the point. You have to do it right. Inclusions, when they melt it together, inclusions will tear you up, all kinds of things. If it's done right, it's beautiful, beautiful stuff. Okay, but inclusions mess you up, and yeah, just awareness, right? Just understanding. So I didn't know this, you know, when I started, but I learned. Human nature rules the day. When we don't have water, it's a problem. When we do have water, nobody cares. Doesn't think about it. It's one, you know, everybody takes it for granted. But it's coming a serious problem, I think, you know, that we need to really get it under control while we have a chance to do something about it. Okay, so anyway, what I meant by OMG, it does what? This is where I get to a homeowner site and I'm like, do you know where your shutoff is? No. Do you know where your water line runs? No. Do you know anything underground? No. Okay. Well, over 20-year property, people connect to it and do all kinds of funny stuff. It's a hidden problem. And when you find out what the reality is, like, oh my gosh, it goes under that pond. Why? I just did one last week. I couldn't believe it. It went like 8 feet down and then looked up, and it was just like, you know, it's just stuff I find is crazy. I have all these measurement tools, and I'll tell you about them. And just to tell you what's going on. So, out of sight, out of mind. If you know where the water line is, underground plumbing and repairs or additions, there's all kinds of crazy stuff. Don't assume anything. Hazards are pressure, movement, weak links in the manufacturing process. So what do we do about it? We got to know what to look for. So I'm starting this blog. I'm going all around the country. It's really fun, actually, take pictures of leaks, and I'm learning about Instagram and all that stuff. Awareness, right? I just want to say, hey, people, this is a leak, right? When you see this happening, there's water, and it's thousands of gallons a day. Just because you see a little puddle right there, there's a lot going on. And 24/7, thousands of gallons a day of treated water. It's amazing, and you see it everywhere. So if I can start getting this picture gallery of this is what it looks like, maybe people can have awareness that way. Measure the system, okay? I'll show you some data, man. It's really cool what I've been. It's actually scary, and we'll get into that. Measuring systems, measuring methods, and inexpensive ones, that a consumer can put on their water. They don't need a plumber, and it's cheap and easy, okay? That's what we need. Easy access to information and higher resolution information. Empower the consumer to do something about it because they want to. They really do. Awareness of the dollar cost that, hey, it's energy to push water. Awareness of true value of clean water. Costs, chemicals, your dollars. Water management technology, easy to use, makes sense. No plumber required. Okay, that's really super important to me. Here's some examples. It's a $12 billion a year problem to the insurance industry right out of their rear end every year. Water damage claims. They would love to get rid of it. $12 billion every year, and it's going up. Water cop, leak controls, and more. Some of them are complex. Most require a plumber. You gotta inject yourself in the flow stream to measure it. We can't have that. There's other ways. So let's think of better ways. The big picture. Okay, mainline to shut off, pressure reduction, operational errors are a big thing. People are like, I got a leak. Well, no. You move into a new house. The landscapers 3 years ago put this beautiful landscape in. They turned the water up 3x what it needed. Nobody thought to turn it back down. And people, when they buy the house, they assume, oh, my $1,200 a month water bill is normal. No, don't assume that's normal. Toilets cost hundreds of dollars a day. Amazing how much they can consume in that little float valve, okay? Just be aware. Listen. The toilet leaking is 24/7, man, and you'd be amazed. I call them $400 toilets because they had $400 to your water bill. All right, timely awareness of small events. This is what blew my mind. I still can't believe it. So I have this little water meter. I watch my water meter. I have minute-to-minute data online. I can log in and see it. So I was gone, and I noticed, hey, man, that toilet's flushing at 3 a.m. So I call my daughter. You throwing a party? Right? What's going on? So. But leaks, like people leaving the hose on, I can catch it all the time now because I say, hey, it didn't stop moving. It should be not moving right now. High resolution magnetic field perturbation sensors for consumers. Meter owners object to this. I don't blame them. You're putting a sensor, a magnetic field sensor, next to their equipment, their meters. They don't want you stopping that magnet from going around, right? You can do that. So I don't blame them. They don't want you in the box. Okay, so how do I bridge that gap? I don't know yet. Maybe somebody here knows how to do that. I've just started to peel that onion. So pressure monitoring, pressure regulation system. Wow, we should monitor pressure, man. That's something we can do already. Nobody's paying attention to that wheel, right? Where that's going. Now, monitoring pressure and flow. Well, there's some correlation information there that's huge. The dimensionality grows. It's really interesting of what you can sense with that. You can sense the health of human occupants, their patterns. It's actually kind of scary, Big Brother stuff. I can't believe the detail I can see in my home. Yeah. You can, hey, did, Grandma, 85 years old, she likes to live by herself. Did she wake up and, make pancakes and do dishes this morning? If that meter doesn't move in that time period, you can set your alert, get your text and email, right? That's possible. I've done it. Okay. Vibration sensing, there's other modes. I've done some really neat experiments with vibration modalities of leak. Really neat data there. Cool stuff. Lots of great vibration scientists around here, if you know what I mean. Love to tap into those group. I haven't got there yet. Moisture and water level sensing. I got some, Rod worked on some great technology for that. He did amazing work, by the way, on that. And it's wonderful technology. It's broadly applicable. It's this little battery-powered sensor that lasts, if it's on track to the calculation over 20 years, it's amazing. So, Remote valve control. Now, I don't recommend that yet because right now the Internet of Things are still scrambling with security and stuff. Unless you have bulletproof security, don't let that valve be controlled in the Internet, right? I'm paranoid. So here's one of my revelations. I'm like, hey, I just happened to check on my phone my water meter movement, and it was all over the place. I'm like, man, where's my leak? So I go around, I look around the house. Sure as heck, man, my faucet was just found it, turned it off, stopped the leak. So this is just some of the technologies I clipped right here. It just goes on the meter. It's all, it can be solar, battery powered, 3.3 volts. The Internet of Things and all the electronics are wonderful nowadays. It's a playground of low power stuff. Simple magnet switch controlled stuff that's all permanently encapsulated so there's no batteries to mess with. That's the kind of stuff the consumer needs. Little light flashes to let them know what's going on. Red lights when something's bad. So, are you into case study? Is this okay? Can we keep going? Yeah? So here's some case studies, some actual data. And it gets really, to me, this is interesting. I'm a number from data graph guy. So I hacked, databases and stuff, and this is what I got. Here's the meter dog. It's a 433 megahertz radio sending data to a receiver, and I can get up on the internet with a little Wi-Fi module over RS-232, serial stuff. And I have them on some customers' houses. And here we can see regular stuff, Sunday, Monday. These are all irrigation schedules, and if you blow it up, you can see the resolution of each station of irrigation when it turns on and off. If it fails, that peak expands, so you integrate under the curve. Now you can do predictive failure on remote valves. Every day automatically online. It does it automatically, sends text and email stuff. It's really cool how well this works. So, anyway, and I'll go through some stuff. Okay, so here's domestic water leak and no leak. It kind of just show you what the data is supposed to look like. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, right? Wednesday, Thursday. So leak. We solved the leak problem, and now this is what it's supposed to look like. The meter stops. And you guys know most of you guys know this is a pretty easy algorithm to say, hey, did the meter stop today or not? So instead of a 30, 60-day window, every day what your meter's doing. What I did is I sent myself a number, like your sleep number, you know how they advertise that? Well, I have a water number. My water number is a mean average rotation, and I have a little algorithm. And I get a number. My number is 679 for my house. Well, when I leave, it goes down to 639. I'm worth about 40 units of that number. Okay? It's just an indication of, hey, if that number goes to 700, 800, I know I got a problem that day, right? I know to do something about actionable information. That's what we're after. You don't have to know where the leak's at. Just, hey, I got a leak right now. Now go find it, right? That's the first step, awareness, right? All right. So high resolution information. What's too much information? Well, when you start knowing when people are taking a shower, going to the restroom, how long their showers are, maybe it's too much, right? So I'm a little sketchy on that stuff. Okay, pool water monitoring, another cool thing. One of the biggest problems we have in this country is the little float valves, and they wear out all the time, and nobody knows, and next thing you know, they're filling your pool, and your chemical loss, and so pools are a big problem. And there's 8 million pools in the United States. A few million of them don't have an autofill. The pool guys can't legally fill the pool. So I built this little pool sensor that fills your pool. I thought, hey, why don't we make it online? Same radio. And sure enough, you can go online with it and monitor pool information when people get in and stuff. It's just another way to monitor your water resource. That's all. Awareness. So early mode failure detection. With the data, we can start to look at failure modes of appliances, valves, anything that's valve, electromechanical that's attached to your water system. It's on a pattern. It's time. Over time, just like Google Voice, it gets better. Same thing, man. It's amazing. And then you can do dimensionality. All right, so temporal correlation, I've just talked about that. Anomalous detection. I knew I wasn't supposed to have water use over this time period. They never did before. I called up the property manager. He says, oh, yeah, we're fertilizing. Thanks for letting me know. Okay? So that was authorized water use. All right, so anyway, these are human feature patterns, and anyway, fixtures and appliances, and I won't get too far into that, just to let you know the information's there. It's pretty bizarro, but it's it. And via negativa, right, no motion, we know that we don't have a leak in the system every day. We do a quick chrono algorithm. We can detect if they have a leak or not. So if the solution begins with just being aware, empowering the consumer with that awareness, so they can solve their own problems, right? No plumber, no pro, just slap it on. Just your water number. It doesn't have to be quantitative. Just indirect measurements are good enough right now. Okay? Text and email, some kind of graphical means to convey the information. Security, man. Internet of Things. It's kind of wild. Be careful. I found antennas, radios, kick your rear end all over the place, man. That's a tough one, but they're solving those problems too. And then give the consumer power, go to the utilities. I don't know, or both, right? Utilities want to solve this problem too. Maybe they need a slap-on sensor, so until they get to their 7 years, they can get the information. Right? I'm finding this out. I don't know. My main interest is to solve the problem. It's not about the business. It's not about making money. It's not about any of that stuff. It's about how do we get this out there and start solving this problem. It's a solvable problem. I'm very interested in it because the lower Colorado is dried up, and it's a solvable problem. That's kind of where I'm at. So any simple, inexpensive stuff like this that solves a problem and provides energy savings or whatever, I'm stoked because first principle. Well, that's it. I think that's it. Let me see here. Yep, that's it.
So what's so great about that one? What's different about it?
Oh, I took a regularly installed check valve and realized that it's a pretty good flow meter. Okay, it wasn't my conceptual. It's actually Nick Chavez-Pardini of Typona Builders. He had that observation. I didn't, about this check valve and the angular position being relative to flow. Okay, and so we explored that more heavily, and it turns out that a patent just issued actually this month, and it's published now. And so if you have a obstruction in an aperture with a confined chamber behind it, you can get these flow dynamics that are really interesting, and it's more of a mass flow device. And even in turbulent conditions, it's still accurate. And we have the most accurate flow meter in elbow-to-elbow conditions. NIST did the work, but it's 2% at any point in the scale, plus or minus about a gallon a minute. And you can put it elbow to elbow, even in air-entrained systems, this way, that way. It still maintains its precision and accuracy across the whole scale.
But it's a manual readout?
Yeah, and I have an electronic one here too that bolts onto these, and it just picks up that little magnet in there as a Hall effect. This one is a safety flapper, it doesn't seal, but this one could be a check valve too. And so in the pool industry, like they're mandated in California now for commercial pools and stuff.
What about saltwater?
Yeah, they're made for pools, chlorinated water, and salt pools. So they have U.S. source stainless steel, glass-filled nylon shaft, and Viton seals if you want the check valve function. So they're made for corrosive environments, actually.
So, it's not linear with angle? Is it a simple function, or do you have to calibrate each one independently?
I had to calibrate it very carefully.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not linear at all. It's all over the place. But I just calibrated the scale, and it's consistent and repeatable. That's the main thing.
So
it's relatively linear. It's not bad.
For your readout, I mean, if you put your Hall effect readout on, do you send a calibration curve with it or something like that? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's in the patent. If you want to look it up under Google patents, you can see all the calibration curves.
I assume we look it up under your name and we'll get there.
It's under NIST also. They have the data.
You asked, how do you bring awareness? And then you answered the question, when the water isn't there, everybody's aware. Those on this side of the Rockies are lucky. As you said, I looked down and the water's not there. Those on the other side have an aquifer. They don't know it's going dry. They have no governmental control because they live in states that say we don't want the government controlling our. The nasty thing is that when a plastic sandstone reservoir dries up, it collapses because the water's holding it up. And you can't get that space back. Even if you had 100 years of heavy rain, you wouldn't get it back. So when it's gone, and they're sleeping.
A ton of people are sleeping at the wheel right now on this,
Yeah.
and
Everybody's worried about that oil pipeline. Wait a while, the aquifer will be dry. You can't contaminate it.
It becomes
And-
a new oil reservoir.
yeah, making it in it.
it's just the people think they go by that drip, you know, and that backflow, right? And they think no big deal, it's just a drip. But man, it's 24/7, 365, you know, and that's just one you can see, and there's hundreds of them that line, you know. So it's really painful for me, you know, to discover how bad the situation is when you know, the lack of awareness of how significant the problem is, because you know, a lot of problem. Oh, I wanted to touch on that. Who's paying the bill, right? The problem is you have people responsible for infrastructure that aren't paying the bill. No skin in the game, right? It's human nature, you know, right? It's work. If I bring that up, it's work and small, you know, all the time. And I'm the bad guy, you know. I say, hey, maintain your valves. I give people prescriptions, you know. Get the, you know, pull that dirt around the valves so you can see them so they can operate, so the lifetime is there. You know, just little things matter. You know,
Do I correctly understand that our meters are telemetered now, so that the water department doesn't have to get out and look?
Some of
them.
Very, very few, percentage-wise.
Was that right? No. Can we tap into that? I mean, they haven't made it available to us, but.
oh no, they keep. You know, I've noticed they're pretty protective. I have my meter dog out here at Huala, and I got shut down pretty hard. Don't put. I thought it's a bomb on there, right? That was the first thing he said. I said, look, man, it's just the battery's in a little PVC little tube. It's okay, you know, it's not a bomb. And he says you got to get it off my meter, and I don't blame him. You know, I mean, I didn't ask. You know, the homeowner wanted it, and I need to clear that hurdle. I need to somehow introduce it to the water authority so they aren't afraid of me. You know, I don't.
Yeah, I was going to encourage you to do that. Because those guys, I've gotten to be friends with the guys because I've had a house up here for 30 years, and we've had two major breaks in the irrigation system that we didn't know about until they called us and said, check your system. And both times they've got a very good system. They take the excess of your bill over your normal, and they give you half of it back.
Yes.
So if you prove to them,
They're very forgiving.
done something to fix it
They're
up.
very, and it used to be.
But
100%.
it really is.
Yeah.
But those guys they want things like what you're talking about to happen. So
I think so.
Got
And
to maybe start at the top and work
I
down.
have to tell you, I made a mistake in the business world. I mean, I'm not, you know, I'm a scientist, and I'll use that as an excuse. Okay, but you got to be careful what you wish for. So I thought, man, you know, people are going to be excited about this, and they were. I got so busy, I had to shut it down because I'm missing the big picture. I want to get this to more people than just here. And so even though my customers were saying, "Come on, quote me, get it to me," I pulled the whole thing back and gave everybody their money back, and I stopped the business because I would have been so busy just servicing and marrying my customers here that I couldn't get this out big time. And that's what I'm trying to accomplish, you know. So, you know, if there's, you know, so there's only, you know, I'm trying to clean up my other businesses. I got this one's going crazy. That's off to a good licensee, and Level Smart, my other kids taken, and so now my plate is kind of cleared up a little bit where I can, you know, attack this problem more directly and spend some time and energy on it. You know, this is my first talk on it, so you guys are my guinea pig audience on this. So if you have any critiques, please let me know.
One other thing, you talked about the pressure issue, and I was totally shocked when we got a new water system in our subdivision. We finally got on county water. Now everybody knows where I live. Anyway, we had you had to hire a plumber, and you had to get a licensed plumber to come hook you up to the new meter, and I didn't. So anyway, the water people came, and they were all critical about it. The thing that really surprised me was that I had wanted to change around the system so that the irrigation system would be on the downside of the pressure meter. But the way it was installed initially, and apparently this is standard practice for homes here in Kona anyway, is that your own pressure regulator is on the other side because you need more pressure for your irrigation system, which is just actually the opposite of what, because that's where you're going to have.
Well, practitioners, what I found is that I have a big conflict when I go in and I make this recommendation and I get them to install a pressure regulator. It's high-low, so it's 75. It's not even dropping it down to house pressure. It's just getting it down to 80 psi. Just something right against the 145 or whatever spikes or 200 spikes. Because if you sit there and measure, you'd see spikes, man. You'd be amazed at the pressure you get hammered with. Amazed. I'm surprised more blowups don't happen actually. But anyway, so what happens is then the irrigation guy goes, "Oh my gosh, I don't have enough pressure." Well, you do. You just have to adapt.
Yeah.
Okay. You have to tune your system up. It creates a onus upon the landscape guy to do a little bit of work. And I'm always saying, look, you got to turn your water down. This is water. These water rates that are ridiculous. But he wants to water his plants. He doesn't care about the water. He's not paying the bill. So there's a conflict. How do you solve that conflict, right? So we need to kind of change the paradigm, I think. How do you make him have some skin in the game, give him some incentive? And I tell the homeowner all the time, I say, look, give him an extra $100 a month, anything, so he can do that maintenance. So he doesn't feel strapped to do the maintenance upkeep. Go ahead. He had to bid it out real cheap to get the contract, but give him a little goodie, So I try to make it a win-win, right? So, but yeah, there's a conflict. You've got to have some culpability, some authority. So one of the ways actually is with my meter dog. You have a shut-off, you have a limit, or you get the property manager gets a text, hey, you went over your 2,000 gallon a day shot. Well, the guy's there at a property and he needs to wash the cars or do some extra watering, cleaning, whatever. Well, he has a login number. You can log in and authorize the overage. Well, now there's some culpability. There's some responsibility there. So now I don't get a call from the homeowner and say, hey, my water bill. I have a $4,000 water bill. What happened? I have a leak. And then I go there, you don't have a leak. Somebody left the water on, operational issue. What are you talking about? Landscaper says no. Property, everybody says they didn't do it. That's right. And I'm the bad guy,
Yeah.
Said, well, look, let's put a meter dog on. We'll see. I solved lots of problems like that. And then Romo, like, hey, yeah, it's this time and this time, this is what happened. So it's about, culpability. It's about responsibility.
I'm on the same water system as Tom is, and I like having that high pressure coming from the meter to the house. In case there's ever a fire, I want to be able to have, be able to put the hose way up on it. So I have that high pressure, like 60 or so.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the pressure reducer at the house, cuts it down. But then I have, after that, downstream, I guess, of that is, drops down to 30 for the irrigation, because that won't handle.
Yeah.
It's like that. So I have 3 different pressures.
Yeah, use them often, check them often. Okay, they fail in the wrong direction. All right. So, and it'll hammer your system up. It'll tear it up.
Do you check them dynamically or statically? Do you just put something on a hose bib, turn it on, or do you turn it on and off and cycle it?
Yeah, statically I think is important, right? But I do it both. They're funny, they have all these weird dynamics depending on where they're at in your system, and there's all this height level changes, and every system's different. So just be aware, if you see it just kicking up over 80 psi, do something about it. That's all, because you're just hammering your system. You're just killing your system.
Well, that was Sid lives below me, so he has higher pressure than I do. And
That's why
in the old system, before the county came in, we had much higher pressure, and there were a lot more.
And you're going to get spiked. If they ever turn it off and turn it on, the guy at the bottom of the hill is getting hammered hard. It's coming. That's a tidal wave coming, and it's hitting hard.
Well, that's why the county specs require that they have to have tanks every. Our subdivision has to have 3 tanks.
reducing valve somewhere along down the hill. Look at something like that.
Yes,
They do, but the reducing valves don't really. They have to rely on the tank elevations. That's why the specifications, and that's all national standards. They have to go by. The guys, we wanted them to change it. And that was the biggest problem with getting the thing in our subdivision, was getting 3 separate tank locations and getting the proper.
Recording?
Here.
Huh?
Want me to stop?
Oh no, I just didn't know if there's some other things we can talk about.
Yeah,
after this.
sorry.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, our neighborhood is famous for having the pressure regulators go out. And I used to live in another place, and the pressure regulator lasted 25 years. Here, we've lived there 10 years, and I've replaced it 3 times, as well as some of my neighbors.
Interesting.
So that's something. You were talking about a high-low. Is that something that prohibits the pressure from going too high or too low? Or
Yeah, it means this is a heavy. It means that you can adjust the range to higher pressures, and I use them as a staged approach. So I put them right after the meter. So it's the initial entry point that brings it down to 80 psi. So the irrigation guy can still have all his pressure he wants, but at least I'm protecting that main line a little bit.
So I could put a higher regulator upstream, and then my house regulator.
That's right. And you try to do a large diameter as possible. I know they're more expensive, but that way you get all the flow through there and everything. You don't sacrifice your flow. Another thing I've seen here is the sizes are huge on some properties. They use a 2-inch for a property, and it's just you don't need it really, But and whenever you get up to larger diameters, you're really stressing those materials a lot more. I mean, it's a lot more. I think
That's
per
what
square inch kind of stuff, right?
Wait, you're stressing what?
Well, it's per square inch kind of stuff, right? So all these fittings and the elbows. If you think about a 2-inch elbow, there's 100 psi on every square inch pushing that elbow out. If it's a 1-inch elbow, it's 100 pounds pulling that elbow out. If it's a 2-inch elbow, it's 500 pounds pulling that out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm all brass fittings.
Yeah. So just those kind of physics things. The physics.
Yeah.
Fishes.
I don't even.
Fishes.
Scare me upset.
Fish sticks.
Fish sticks.
I welcome any ideas or on this stuff. Like I said, just launched. Trying to start to sow the seeds.
So what is your water dog? What's the stat? Are you selling those still? You said you pulled back now, or are you?
Well, again, you got to be careful what you wish for. So I kind of rolled it back. I had a bunch of people chasing me down for a couple of years actually on it, and none of it was very good. Venture capitalists and stuff, all this. And I decided that I recommend everybody read a book by Nassim Taleb called Anti-Fragility and Black Swan Events. Okay, it's really a fascinating read, and it's about events and nature and volatility. Okay, and so I'm following that model in my business setup. And so basically, instead of going with a big business, venture funded and stuff like that, I'm going to just kind of sprinkle it around. All right, and that's it's like a distributed risk approach. And so that's on the business side. So right now, alarm.com, what I'm doing is I'm just getting because I had to shut down the meter dog business. It cost me a lot of money, and I'm paying all that back, just myself back for that. And so I'm focusing on sales of my existing technology. And I have the meter dog technologies being evaluated by some alarm companies right now because they're interested in alarming with it. And they're okay on that. It straps onto the meter. Okay. And so they're evaluating it right now. And so what my business model is, I want the data. They want the alarms. So I'm going to collect the data, feed in the alarms, and then with that information, there's lots to do with that data. That's the business that I want. I don't care about the hardware, so I'm going to license the hardware to whoever wants it, whoever can sell it. And I got lots of pieces of that, and I'm more interested in just keeping my hooks on the data because I think that's the.
Would you say that author a little slower for those of us who don't take shorthand?
I'm sorry, the what?
The author that you recommended.
Oh, Nassim, I think Nassim Taleb.
Okay.
Really fascinating read, I think, and I recommend it to everybody because it really changed it simplified my life tremendously on how I evaluate decisions and what makes sense, So,
Never too late to learn.
The Energy Lab now is, maybe they've already finished taking offers, but they're going to install electronic metering for all of the tenants to measure their flow to get a better idea of how much flow everybody's actually using compared to meters now, which are paddle wheels and don't work.
yeah, they don't.
So I don't know if it's an opportunity for you or not, but they may still be accepting bids.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'll give that to. My market channel who sells that stuff. I'll tell him about it. He does variable speed drives and stuff. He's sold a bunch of stuff to Milhan. So I think, you know, all these motors that are variable speed drives or soft starts and stuff. He does all that stuff, and that's huge in energy.
Who's that?
H2 Flow Controls.
Oh, yeah.
Paul Hackett.
Yeah.
Really super good guy. Great business partner. Treats me so fair. You know? So nice guy.
Why don't we